Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of Viltrumics, an Invincible podcast here on the Aspect Network. I'm one of your hosts, BreAnna Romero, and joining me to discuss the latest and greatest in the world of Invincible is Negan Fu. Negan, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Um, just got back from Atlanta on Sunday, and then mostly been a relatively slow week. Um, just kind of flying to some stuff, but mostly good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm settling into my new apartment with my boyfriend and our dog. So it's been a good week, a busy week back in the office at work, but overall it's been really good. I'm looking forward to the weekend, even though it's going to be really rainy in LA, which is not cool because every weekend has been
Mm.
really rainy lately. Um, but it's okay. It's fine, I guess. I guess we'll have a very green summer.
I think so. It's been rainy here in New York as well.
But that's like so normal for New York, I feel like. LA,
Yeah,
it's weird that it's raining this late into the year. I like how I say that like I've lived here for a long time. I've only lived here for a couple months, but I don't like that it's raining in March. So
rain, famously only happens in winter.
yeah, I don't get it. It's kind of rude.
I don't know what Mother
Maybe
Nature's up to.
probably being abused and she's not happy and climate change is happening. So maybe that's why it's raining. Uh,
It's a important issue. But
and you know
um
what? We'll talk about it in this episode.
oh yeah, I think we might actually. But yeah, so today we're recapping and reviewing the penultimate episode of Invincible season 2 with episode 7, I'm Not Going Anywhere. Let's kick off this week's show by just jumping into our overall thoughts. Bree, we'll start with you. What did you think of episode 7?
Again, like every week, I thought it was a great episode. Um, However, I will say I felt like it was a bit different from the episodes we have seen this season. It felt a lot more slow. We were covering like a lot of the B plots, I feel, which I think, and we kind of spoke about this before. I thought it was interesting that we decided, or not we, I'm not a part of the crew, but that they decided to take a step back this episode and cover less ground. I feel like we're at the point in the season where we should be covering more ground. There's just so much happening and so much to cover. But at the same time, it was kind of a nice break to just watch these B plots unfold and move forward in a way. So I thought it was a good episode. I enjoyed watching it, but had some qualms with it. What did you think?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was nice, almost sort of slowing down a little bit, at least in more the front half of the episode. Um, but it was really nice, I think, picking up the main Viltrumite War storyline and introducing a new character to the show and giving us just a little bit more. I feel like every time they talk about the Viltrumite War, we're just more informed about the general lore and general context. So that's always fun to see. But what were your qualms with the episode? I'm curious.
Well, I guess not necessarily like I had certain specific qualms. I just, like I said, like I feel like we should be covering more ground. I mean, we're an episode away from the finale, and I feel like
Mm,
the finales in the past have only been, I think, about 47 minutes long. So it makes me wonder, like, how much we're going to cover in 40 to 55 minutes. What's going to
yeah.
go down? How are we going to end this season feeling satisfied? Because I mean, we have no idea when season 3 is going to drop. So feeling satisfied in a way that we're ready to take a step back from watching Invincible. And, it's just hard because we did have to wait for the second half of season 2. I just worry that the fans are going to
Yeah.
want more,
Yeah. There's definitely, I mean, they didn't even touch on the Sequid's plotline, which is like the cliffhanger of the last episode. So are they gonna touch on that next episode at all, or is that gonna not come back till season 3,
Yeah, I
which
hope,
could be in a while?
yeah, I hope that the finale is satisfying, and I think it will be. I don't have any like doubts, but there's just so much going on this season that I want to figure out like a new thing for every plot point that has been planted for us, without
Right.
it being like, too jumbled. But I mean, overall, it was a good episode. Just a lot less happened, and I think that is really important for TV shows to have those episodes that kind of feel
Mhm.
like filler in a way. I mean, like you said, we still learned so much. We were introduced to a new Viltrumite, which is huge. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think obviously the season 1 finale is such a strong episode and a really strong season closer.
Mhm.
I'm curious, and I guess we'll talk about it next week, but I'm curious if the season 2 finale will wrap up the season while still kind of acting as a cliffhanger and like a preview of what's to come, in a way that feels satisfying and earned, especially after breaking season 2 into 2 parts and having fans wait however many months.
Yeah, I'm curious like what they'll reveal at the finale because I feel like there's always a big reveal, like a cliffhanger, like you said. So I don't know. We'll see. Um,
We'll see.
some I'm excited to get into the specifics. Do you have any like other feelings on this overall?
I think it was definitely a really enjoyable episode. I think this back half of season 2 has really delivered so far. And I don't think the finale will break that trend. Um, but yeah, I think it's a show that so far, I mean, it's only 7 episode or 8 plus 7, 15, about to be 16 episodes in total. So it's a
Okay,
relatively new show. But
that's
yeah, so I think I don't think the show has really had any like bad episodes or anything that, there's some maybe slower episodes in season 1, but um so far it's a really consistent show.
yeah, I think my biggest worry is people who kind of casually watch the show that like once season 2 ends if they'll like keep up because like I know some people that have yet to start the second half of season 2 even though they like
Yeah.
watched all of season 1 and all of first half of season 2. I just feel like people are a little less excited that they had to because they had to wait so long. So I don't know. I mean I have high confidence that they'll wrap up season 2 in a way that brings many people back to season 3, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Again,
I hope
episode, but
Yeah, I hope the show. I mean, I think it's already pretty popular. I think Omni-Man's already kind of what's the word? He's already like fairly well known in pop culture since being introduced in season 1. I think especially thanks to some of those memes. But it'll be interesting to see if how the show gets bigger and more popular, kind of like The Boys has over the past few years. I don't think Invincible is on that level of popularity yet. Hopefully it will be. But yeah, it's definitely a show that feel like more people should be talking about week to week.
Yeah, I'm curious. Do you think, because I feel like Invincible gained a lot of its popularity throughout season one. Do you think that it's gained any more popularity with season two, or do you think season two is gonna come to an end? We're gonna wait a couple months, and people who kind of casually view things are gonna start watching it, and then it'll blow up again? Because I feel like I've seen a little bit
Yeah.
like memes and stuff this season. I do think that the Invincible social medias have been doing a really great job this year. I
Oh
love
yeah.
the TikTok edits that the Invincible TikTok does, but I just feel like I've seen a lot less of it in the media besides that.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's definitely I know it's like a popular show, but yeah, how much has it grown since like season one? Like I don't know, it's tough to
Mhm.
say. But yeah, because I do feel like with the boys, like I remember just hearing more about it like with each season.
Mhm.
Until like by the time like season three was done, like it was for sure just so just in the public eye uh as a piece of television, as like a kind of pulp culture
Mhm.
moment. And I don't doesn't feel like Invincible has that reach yet. I don't know, maybe some people are like who aren't familiar with it, maybe they've heard good things, but maybe just the fact that it's animated might even cause some viewers to like maybe at least take longer to check it out.
Yeah, I mean that was me in the beginning, not because it was animated, but it just took me so
Mhm.
insane to watch it. So maybe with this podcast we can start convincing more
Right.
people to watch it.
This podcast is gonna bump Invincible to like Game of Thrones popularity levels.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So tune in, like and subscribe, guys.
Don't
If you
forget
want if you want Invincible to just become even more popular, you should listen to
to
us
this
talk about it.
and watch the episode.
Yes.
But most importantly, listen to this podcast.
Yes. Don't listen to other Invincible podcasts out there. Just this one.
Also,
Viltrumics.
yep, Viltrumics. All right. When we come back, we'll be talking even more about some of our favorite moments and elements from this week's episode. We'll be right back.
Hey, Aspect listener, my name is Alex.
And I'm Kate, enjoying this show on the Aspect Network.
Then check out Bending the Narrative.
We are your one-stop shop for everything in the world of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Each week, we go back and discuss your favorite episodes of the series with a particular focus on the characters and narrative threads that tie the series together.
In addition to discussing the original series, we also dive into other stories in the world of Avatar, like Legend of Korra, the live-action Netflix series, the books, the comics, and more.
Join us as we travel the globe with Team Avatar and discuss one of the greatest animated series of all time on Bending the Narrative here on the Aspect Network.
Now, back to the show.
Welcome back to Viltrumics. Before the break, we discussed some of our overall thoughts on episode 7, but now we want to dive into specific parts of the episode we really enjoyed. Megan, let's start with you this time. What were some of your favorite moments from I'm Not Going Anywhere?
There were quite a few. I mean, I think probably the highlights of the episode is definitely when Mark encounters a new Viltrumite that we haven't seen before. I think that's really when the episode is the most intense and, in my opinion, the most interesting. But there's a lot of good stuff here, a lot of great character moments as
Oh,
usual, a
you
lot with
weren't
Mark and
interested.
Amber.
Just gonna say that.
Wait, say that again?
I was gonna say, oh, you weren't interested in the Mark and Amber parts of the episode?
Well, Well, it's getting there. It is starting to get there. So I guess we can start with the Mark and Amber stuff. I feel
We
like
open
the
on
whole
it.
season, yeah. We opened at a Comic-Con, which is a lot of fun, and there's a really fun fourth wall breaking joke from like the comic book artist that Mark, talks to, who was voiced by Tim Robinson actually.
I thought that was really
Um, yeah, I definitely, I would not be able to tell just from hearing that voice, but I looked it up and it
Me
was
too.
cool. It's cool that it's
I
Tim
love
Robinson.
I love watching on Amazon Prime because you can like pause it and it'll tell you who the
Yeah.
actors are.
No, yeah, that's really sick, especially for an animated show where it's just their voice.
Yeah.
But the Comic-Con stuff was fun. Um, and then it's a lot of Mark and Amber stuff, and honestly, probably the more interesting stuff kind of comes towards the back half, so we can kind of circle back to it. But I will say that it does seem like things might things might be on the outs for them. I don't know if that's the right saying, but
I
you
know.
get
It was
yeah.
sad. It was sad. It was fun seeing them at a Comic-Con though. Like just the thought of
Mm,
superheroes going to Comic-Con, seeing people dressed up as their superhero
yeah.
persona, that's really funny to me. I think that was a really funny choice for them. I also thought it was funny how Mark was like having the time of his life and Amber was just kind of following him around. And I looked over to Jordan like halfway, or not halfway, but at this moment, and I was like, wow, why does why does this feel oddly familiar? But I mean, I would
All
enjoy.
all boys are the same.
They literally are. They're all the same. But I would enjoy going to Comic-Con, but I just thought that was funny and he was like, I want to make sure you're having a good time. And she was like, I am having a good time.
Have you been to a Comic-Con before?
No. But I would like
Okay.
to go to one. I would go to one. I just think I would probably get a little tired
Yeah.
quickly. I could only do like a
They're
day.
they're really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I,
But they're really cool. San Diego Comic-Con, I always wanted to go to that. Maybe
but
this summer.
hey, maybe you could stay. We could drive down. But I thought that fourth wall break was really fun and kind of like a call out to the fans,
Yeah.
kind of being like, all right, guys, slow your roll. Animation is hard.
It is a funny joke. Just because like, we've all seen so many cartoons, and especially like when I'm watching like a kid's cartoon from when I grew up, and it's in a scene where there's a bunch of like background characters, and if you just look like none of them are doing anything. And honestly, I think usually they're kind of like recycled like throughout. They're like it's like however many actual models, and then they're just like duplicated and like mixed up. But of course, like I totally understand that on the animator's part.
Yeah. However, I'm curious, did you think that part of the episode was necessary? Could we have covered some more ground on another thing in like those 2 minutes that it took? I don't know. It was funny and I appreciated it, but in the like in the big
Right.
view of things, like what did it take away?
It's more so just an interesting, like I don't know how much ground the show would have covered in those that 2 minute gag, but it's more interesting that to do such a self-aware joke, such a meta joke, just because I think as smart as the source material is and as smart as the adaptation is of Invincible, it is a pretty like serious show. Um, And so to have a moment that breaks the fourth wall, like so on the nose, it's funny.
Mhm.
Um, but I was wondering, like maybe it is a little distracting or a little bit like almost like a slightly toned down Rick and Morty bit or like a Family Guy bit.
Yeah, definitely an interesting
I
choice,
don't know.
but
Yeah.
it was overall funny. But yeah, I mean, Mark and Amber can't handle the heat.
Yeah. And that's because Amber sucks.
Whoa.
And no, just kidding. I gotta give a lot of credit to Amber, and I guess we'll talk about it a little bit later, since it happens kind of at the end. Um, but yeah, so there's is some stuff that happens with them. Mark talks to the dean, gives him 1 month to get back on track.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't know like how you feel about kind of the small stuff like that, because I think it does add a lot to his character, and it helps us believe that he's like a real person and
Yeah.
not like a cartoon character, he's kind of similar to like Spider-Man and heroes that are young and
Yeah.
supposed to be kind of relatable.
Yeah, I actually I love those moments. I love that they like talk about school, and I liked that for a moment Mark talked about getting like a part-time job. Even though I personally don't think he should get a part-time job. I don't think he can handle it. But I really enjoy that they make Mark so relatable. Um, yeah.
Yeah, he is very relatable. Um, yeah,
You're
he's
so
literally me, actually.
yeah.
I am him, really, is what I'm trying to say.
Whoa. Well,
I do
in
get really like
real.
I get really hyped up like when I watch the show and watch Mark be awesome. Um, just because he reminds me so much of myself.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's very cool.
well, and then we also see a little bit of the Guardians of the Globe this episode,
Oh,
which which was interesting. I think just everyone's just going through it. No one has a good day, I feel like. Except for Rex when he kind of takes out the goddamn nightmare tentacle monster.
yeah. Rex he's a really cool ass kind of robot hand cannon thing now.
Hmm.
That's pretty powerful. Don't know if it probably couldn't take out a Viltrumite, but it is a cool addition. So Rex does seem to be surprisingly doing the
Yeah.
best out of the Guardians. Our man Immortal is still going through it.
Yeah, I know. It worries me. I wonder if like a big fight were to break out in this finale, if he would show up.
Right. Have like a cool like season 2 moment.
Mhm.
Um, I know. I feel like we need to probably need to see him die again. Like we need to see another immortal death probably
Yeah.
before the
Uh,
season's up.
I guess like I understand why he wants to leave the Guardians of the Globe because he can't die. Like so he can't like escape this life that he's in. So like the only way to kind of escape it in a way is to step back from being a superhero. So I get it,
Yeah.
but maybe
Where do you
where
think?
home is, yeah.
Yeah, where do you think home is?
I have no idea. And I hope we find out. Um, let's see. Where if I were immortal, where would my home be?
Maybe he's lived everywhere. I mean, he's been around for a pretty
Yeah.
long time.
Where would he feel like the most at home though? Disneyland?
Hmm,
Um,
potentially. He seems like such a, I don't know, I imagine him retreating to like some cabin in the woods.
yeah,
But
a
like, yeah, like I don't know, maybe he has
or a
a
farm.
farm. I mean, I guess he doesn't have not like he's going home to like family really, because he's
Yeah,
been, everyone's dead.
yeah, maybe
Um,
not a thing, but maybe he has like a connection with animals that we don't know about. Like
I don't
this is so niche and so specific, but I don't know if you follow
know.
the NBA at all, but the Denver Nuggets has a player and his name is Nikola Jokic, and he's like one of the greatest basketball players of our time right now. And he literally like doesn't really care about basketball. He just plays it because he's really good.
Wow.
And so at the end of last season, when they won the championship, when the Nuggets won the championship, everyone was like, "What are you gonna do now, Nikola?" And he was like, "I'm gonna go home to my horses." So maybe that's where Immortal's going.
Imagine being like just so damn good at something that, you can succeed in it, but it's like not, you don't really care about it. You're just like this awesome skill you happen to have.
Yeah, like us in podcasts.
Right, exactly. Um, I don't need this show. We're just such good podcasters that,
Some
I just feel like we'd kind of be doing a disservice to
the
the
world.
public, the world. Um, this podcast reaches every single country on earth. And um, I think without this podcast, I think just the world would be in it would be a less cool place than it already is.
Yeah. So I just want to circle back real quick to the comic book interaction at Comic-Con because our producer just sent us a
Yes.
text telling us that that was straight from the comics, which is so interesting because it felt so pointed towards how everyone was so upset that we had to wait so long for season two. So I thought
Right.
that's really interesting that it wasn't added in. It was straight from the comics.
I'm curious if like you're right, because its placement in the show did feel like so intentional and like um largely because of the wait that we had to wait for season two, and then kind of the wait between the first half of season two and the back half. But I'm curious if in the comics, like if this joke happens around the same time as we are in the show right now, or if
Ooh.
they kind of were like, this would be a fun spot to place this joke.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Um,
nice to see that they do like pull directly from the comics. I mean, obviously, like they do that, but even like the small stuff,
yeah,
like
yeah,
um,
down to like this kind of meta humor.
yeah. Back to the Guardians of the Globe. The worst part of this episode was when Rudy said, "Let me fix you." To Monster Girl. I was like, that's ew. I like physically cringed when he said that. Rudy, she does not need you, okay?
He gave you the ick.
Yes, I've always had the ick about Rudy, but then and there the ick was solidified. So
Yeah. Yeah, I love how is I love how in season one, Robot's like this really like enigmatic like personality, and then he has this whole thing on the side where he's like transferring his mind to like a new body that he cloned. And then this season, he's only cares about helping Monster Girl with her condition.
yeah,
Yeah,
which
that's
is
usually all he talks about now.
yeah, I know. I feel like he has so much more potential.
Yeah. I'm sure. I mean, I know Robot is like a pretty significant character in the comics, so I imagine this season it's just like kind of a slower arc for him.
Just
Maybe
sit
definitely a little
this
less interesting than he was in season one,
yeah.
but
We
more to
also
come.
yeah. What'd you say?
I just said more to come like, about
Oh,
Rudy
okay.
in the future.
We also see and cover some Donald and Rick plot, which I thought,
Speaking of robots, right?
yeah, speaking of robots, man, Donald and Rick.
Yeah.
That
We return to Rick, the show's number one most interesting, most awesome character, and he has this whole nightmare about Sinclair's experiments. And then he's feeling little
that
sad.
yeah, I mean I get it. I would also feel that way, and I think we s- we see it's just so interesting that it's revealed that Donald in the past has also died many times and he has chosen to erase those memories. And so I see why it's impacting Rick so much because he still has those memories. He knows everything that happened to him. And I know we kind of talked about it a couple episodes ago, like talking about the idea of having the ability to know that you might die and having the option to become like to to have the government put your body back together. Uh,
Yes, yes.
but in this scenario, it was Donald had the option to erase his memories, and he made that choice. So
Mhm.
I understand what Rick's going through. I mean, I haven't been through it, but I can see why he is so upset.
Yeah. My buddy Eric did go through it. And it is kind of it's a lot for someone to have to emotionally process
I can
and
imagine.
physically
You're
process.
such
Yeah.
a good friend for being there.
For Eric,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, I am a good friend. Um, he's doing good now. He's fine now. But yeah, so definitely some interesting stuff with Donald. Um, and I think he chooses this time he's like he doesn't choose to have his memories wiped, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or or wait. No, he did because he only found out about the becoming a robot because he like pricked himself in the bathroom and then hacked into Cecil's computer and then found the footage.
No, no, yeah, 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 yeah. But I meant like for this episode, he
Mm,
decides not to wipe his memories again, right?
correct.
Yeah,
I think.
because I know he tells Cecil like, all right, just do it again. But then he gets the call
Oh yeah.
from William, and then he talks to Rick, and I'm pretty sure he has like a line where he's like, I decided not
Mhm.
to wipe the memories.
Yeah.
Um, so it is interesting. I'm curious, like if he dies again, Cecil brings him back, and then just repeat the process. I don't know. We touched on it last episode, but we'll see what happens, I guess.
Yeah. It was really Donald just puts himself on the line, man. He's a real stand-up guy.
He is. I'm starting to really like Donald, honestly.
Yeah, I'm rooting for him.
It's cool. What do Donald's eyes look like?
Oh, I feel like maybe we've seen them before. They're probably beautiful blonde or not blonde, beautiful blue eyes with a glimmer of hopefulness and dreams. That's
Yeah,
what
he might be quite stunning under those glasses.
Yeah, maybe
But we'll see. Maybe we'll get a Donald I reveal. If not next episode, then maybe next
that's all
season.
I need. That's all I need. All the season 2 finale needs to be is Donald I reveal, and I'm sold for season 3. That's all I
Yeah.
need.
I hope they really tease us and then just deliver.
Yeah, I'm sure they will.
It'd be pretty awesome. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
But why don't we talk a little bit about Debbie? Because she has some moments in this. A really nice moment with her and Mark, where Mark asks Debbie what it was like dating Omni-Man, dating Nolan. And she kind of talks a little bit about it and said that it was awesome, like it was dating a superhero, like that was really cool. Um, but that he was gone a lot, obviously, just like Mark is with Amber.
Yeah. You know, in the moment of that conversation, I didn't even really connect those dots that Debbie was saying. Is it really a relationship if you're mostly alone? And Amber has been feeling so alone. So really, really important conversation that they just had.
Yeah, it is. But I also think someone else that's been feeling really alone is Adam Eve. And
Oh,
she spends a lot of time just kind of sitting in her like treehouse and moping a little bit, having her own like existential crisis. So I feel like I don't know. I feel like she just needs someone to hang out with.
yeah, I think so too. And I think their name rhymes with dark or bark or narc,
Mm.
zark.
Mm.
I don't know though. I just have a feeling. But
Probably
I
something like that.
I enjoyed Mark and Debbie's conversation, and I thought it was interesting when Mark asked, like, well, what if you didn't have me and Oliver? Then like what would your relationship be like with Nolan? I don't know, I just feel so bad for Debbie.
Yeah, but she does. Her coworker Paul
That's true.
asks if she wants to do dinner, and she says yes. So I don't know. Things maybe are looking up.
I hope so. I hope, and
Yeah,
maybe and we see a little bit more of this nanny. So maybe she is a, I don't know. I won't get my hopes up yet, but she seems like a stand-up gal.
yeah. April. I'm
Mhm.
still on to her for sure, but I don't know, she's so far she's kind of chill though.
Yeah. And I feel like Mark takes the conversation he has with Debbie to heart, and he plans like a nice date with Amber, and we get this big Amber and Mark montage, which was sweet, but kind of boring.
A little boring, a little boring.
But
Um, but I think the most interesting part of this episode, um, kind of comes into play right when Mark and Amber are having their seemingly normal
Mhm.
date. When a new Viltrumite named Anissa, who is voiced by, oh God, her name is so long, but Chantel Van Santen.
Good job.
Um, yeah, I think that's maybe right. But she played this character on the CW's The Flash back in like season 2, which is where I first knew her. But more recently, she was in The Boys as Billy Butcher's ex-wife, whose name I am totally blanking on, but she was in that show.
Yeah, I thought that was a incredible reveal. I thought it was so scary. The score they had in the background, I was like really nervous for what was about to happen. So I loved that they just popped her in And we immediately knew that like something was wrong by like the look of Amber's face. So I thought that was a really cool reveal. I don't know anything about Anissa. She just
Mhm.
seems like a bad woman.
She is pretty intimidating in this episode. Um, so so I guess to anyone listening, I mean to the millions of people that are listening, um, we usually mention in each episode that neither of us have read the comics. I know we've kind of both heard some stuff here and there.
I
I've
don't know
definitely
how
like
to
read a
read.
little bit. Yeah, I mean, reading is definitely it's something we're both kind of working on.
Yeah.
It's a little bit it's a little bit of a challenge. It's a work in progress for sure. Um, like if it was all like the comics were just the pictures, just the artwork, then I feel like I could easily do it. But there are a lot of words, so I think it's just about kind of working up to it. But in the comics, Anissa essentially, I think it happens later, like a good amount later in the general like Viltrumite War plotline.
Mhm.
Um, but her character actually sexually assaults Mark.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and
What?
it's like one of probably the most controversial
Oh my
thing that
God.
happens in the whole like comic storyline, which is kind of like the only reason I really know. It's because like if you just kind of slightly fall down an Invincible rabbit hole online, then you'll find it pretty quickly.
Oh my God.
Um, yeah. So that's why I wasn't sure like when that's gonna happen. I don't even know if the show
Yeah,
will
I'm really
depict that. I think because I'm pretty sure the comics were made in like the 2000s,
huh.
or early to mid 2000s. I don't know like how long it went on for, but I think it was conception. It started in the 2000s. Um,
Wow.
so I don't know. I feel like as we're kind of in the mid 2020s, I
Hmm.
feel like the show might stray away from it, depicting
Yeah.
it, or even like having it happen at all. But
Yeah.
what do you think?
I don't know. That's so crazy. I had no idea. Um, but it makes me think about because we brought it up, The Boys, because The Boys is also a really crazy show and pushes a lot of boundaries. And I mean, we've seen like Starlight kind of go
Yeah,
through a similar situation. So I don't know, it's really interesting and I'm curious to see what they will and if they do incorporate it at all. Um,
yeah,
I feel like there's a way, I don't know. I don't know. It's a very gray area that can go bad really quickly.
yeah, for sure.
Wow.
I was a little worried, like, because again, I didn't really know when I was watching the episode, like how early or not that happened. So I was like, man, like, does it happen like now? Like, is this when does he just come down and that's what happens? But thankfully, no. And instead, the two, well, should they kind of have a conversation? And Anissa basically points out that the Viltrumites coming and ruling Earth would benefit humans. I know earlier in the episode we mentioned like the climate, um, you know, rain and whatnot. But she points out that the Viltrumites have the technology to repair Earth's climate for the people, for the humans, as well as feed the hungry. And then she says that Viltrumites don't just don't just kill for no reason.
Hmm.
Um, so I don't know. I thought it was an interesting moment in the episode and in the season, and I'm curious if what you think about her argument. Like, do you think maybe the Viltrumites could do some good?
I don't know. I it's it's such a hard and interesting conversation because in a way, like they do make a good argument. And I think I don't think she's lying. Like I do think they have like the capabilities to repair the climate or feed the hungry, all of that. I just think it's the consequences of it, killing millions and millions of people to first accomplish that. Um,
Mm,
I don't, and I feel like for a moment, you kind of don't know which way Mark is gonna go because I think she like presents this argument to him and he has this like moment of silence to himself and you're like, oh, like, is he convinced?
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really interesting. What do you think?
I mean, yeah, I think I just after seeing, the season one finale and how much destruction Omni-Man caused kind of by himself. I think obviously the Viltrumites coming down to Earth and taking over would not be pretty, especially because people would just inherently fight back. But
Mhm.
I don't know. I mean, suppose climate change is an issue, and there are a lot of homeless people here, so
Yeah,
maybe
well,
the
and
Viltrumites
it was interesting how
go.
she brought up like the people, the wealthiest people, like they're the ones who are causing all these problems. She said something about greed and
Yeah.
it just it I hated how I could we could kind of take a step back and be like, wow, this is kind of how our world really is. Like we are not
Yeah.
just watching a TV show, like this kind of feels like our world minus the superheroes and supervillains. Um, so that it makes you when a show can be related to the world we live in now, it's just like kind of scary and it makes you think about it in a different way
Yeah.
because you're like, this could be a reality in a way.
Hmm. Yeah, it definitely like can can kind of touch on actual issues going on in our world. Um, because it essentially is like takes place basically on what's supposed to be kind of our Earth, but just in the world of Invincible. So yeah, it is definitely interesting, and it does make you think more about like just the general conflict in the show. Just just by kind of relating it to kind of the real world. Um,
Hmm.
so definitely an interesting conversation. Uh, but then we get an alert that there's a kaiju attack. And the two of them fly over there because Anissa wants to see how strong the son of Nolan is.
Hmm.
And Mark gets some licks in there, but then he's knocked back. And then Anissa just freaking kills the kaiju in just one clean sweep.
Yeah, which also like presents the idea that like if Viltrums were on Earth, like human beings would no longer be threatened by these kind of creatures and
Right.
others. Ah, yeah. That was crazy though. She's really strong.
Yeah, it's she's probably we can kind of assume she's probably the strongest Viltrumite we've seen in action so far. I think Donald mentions that she's even quicker than Nolan is.
Yeah.
So they won't be able to hit her necessarily with like their big like weapons in the sky. And she doesn't actually she and Mark do end up trading some blows, but she doesn't like beat him to a pulp the way that Omni-Man does at the end of season 1. But it is really fun and interesting to see like Mark so clearly outgunned by her. When we saw him actually hold his own against a Viltrumite back in episode 4 of this season.
Mhm.
So clearly, they keep kind of upping the general power levels of the characters we see.
Yeah, and I also think it's really interesting how Mark tells Anissa to, finish him. And she
Yeah.
ends up not doing that because they do need him in the end, which I think Mark was really, really smart for doing that. I mean, he could have died right then and there, but he knew that they need him in order to accomplish what they want to do.
Yeah. And I kind of have respect for Mark for just not backing down, like for just sticking with his principles, even when Cecil's telling him like you should just pretend, just say that you'll concede and we'll figure it out. But he'd rather just be killed than compromise like that.
Yeah, which just makes me love Invincible even more.
He's a very, very cool character. Um, yeah, and then Anissa, before she takes off, says that another Viltrumite will come down in some time, and Mark better come to his senses before then. Um, so I don't know. I kind of doubt that confrontation will happen next episode, just because I think there's some other plot threads they're going to explore. But maybe by next season we'll get to see that fight and see what that looks like, and how I'm sure Mark will get a lot stronger by then, but probably still take a beating from whoever they send.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, I feel like this season keeps pulling out a bunch of surprises every episode. So maybe we will see the Viltrums again next episode.
I hope so. More of Omni-Man. But when we come back, we'll talk about kind of how the episode wraps up, that really crazy post-credit scene, as well as just the cliffhanger of this episode. And we'll just talk a little bit more about how we think season 2 will end next week. But yeah, we'll be right back.
Hey, Aspect listener, my name is Alex.
And I'm Kate, enjoying this show on the Aspect Network.
Then check out Bending the Narrative.
We are your one-stop shop for everything in the world of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Each week, we go back and discuss your favorite episodes of the series with a particular focus on the characters and narrative threads that tie the series together.
In addition to discussing the original series, we also dive into other stories in the world of Avatar, like Legend of Korra, the live-action Netflix series, the books, the comics, and more.
Join us as we travel the globe with Team Avatar and discuss one of the greatest animated series of all time on Bending the Narrative here on the Aspect Network.
Now, back to the show.
Welcome back to Viltrumics. To wrap up this episode, we wanted to discuss a little more in detail about that crazy ending, as well as the mid-credits scene with Alan the alien, and just how season 2 will maybe wrap up next episode in general. So, yeah, Bree, I mean, where do you want to start?
Oh my gosh, I don't even know. I mean, we could talk about Angstrom. He's back. He's so back.
Back.
He's in Mark's house, which
Yeah. It
was
reminded me of like when Syndrome and the Incredibles like pops in their house and has Jack.
yeah.
Similar vibes. But yeah,
Yeah,
he's back.
that was I did not expect that. I kind of just thought he was gonna show up in front of Mark. I don't know. I didn't think he was gonna go to that level of holding Debbie and Oliver hostage. And he just delivers
Yeah.
the most, like, diabolical, evil line. He's like, I think he says, "When are you going to be home?" In his freaking voice. Oh, really scary.
Yeah, Sterling K. Brown, I really like him in this role.
Me too. Me too. I'm a big fan. But
Yeah.
so
I think Angstrom is go ahead.
I definitely think we'll start off the um the episode really quickly going into the Angstrom, Levy, and Mark plot line.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I know that's it's again I think we touched on him a little bit last episode. Um, but really I think since the opener of season two, like when they explore some of his character and we see like it has like the whole like kind of multiverse cold open in like that other timeline. He hasn't done that much in the season, so I think and maybe the finale will really be Angstrom centric. Um, but I imagine they'll do some with the Viltrumites and Nolan as well. Because in the mid-credit scene, we have a really fun confrontation between Alan the alien and Anissa. Like, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I just love how much Alan we're getting. He's an
Yeah,
icon. And I love how he's just vibing through space, and then he's like, "Oh shit, a Viltrumite ship." But I definitely think he knew what he was doing. Um, and it was really fun seeing him fight Anissa and seeing how much
yeah,
stronger he's gotten. I was surprised to see blood drawn. Um,
right.
but I'm really
Especially after especially after we see her, just beat the crap out of Mark so easily.
yeah. Yeah, I'm really excited to see where his character continues to go. I think he's become a really important part of the plot. And it definitely was all planned because we can see him open his eyes at the end, or his eye, his singular
His
eyeball at the
eye.
so yeah, I'm curious what his plans are. Is he gonna try to rescue Nolan? What do you think?
I'm kind of hoping. I feel like yeah, someone's got to get in there and get Nolan out. Um, and again, yeah, like you said, like we see Alan, draw blood from Anissa, um, seemingly like pretty easily, like not much effort, which is kind of crazy, like how much stronger that means he's gotten since we saw him get torn apart in like episode three. So I think I'm hoping like other than the Ainstrom stuff next episode, I'm hoping a lot of the screen time is devoted to Alan and Nolan and whatever's going on in that Viltrumite ship. Because I
Yeah,
think it'll be really fun.
do you think there's any possibility for an Angstrom and Viltrumite crossover? Like, are Alan and Noel
Hmm.
gonna come down to Earth at some point in this episode? I mean, I don't think so. I think though that is unlikely, but I think it would be cool for everyone to just show up, but it might be a little too messy for everything to go down at once.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting, I guess, because Angstrom is clearly such a smart character who knows a lot of just what's happening, I think, in that world in general. But I don't know if his motivations now are is he just trying to get revenge on Invincible? Like, does he care about the Viltrumite war? Could he interfere? Um, I don't know. I mean, I imagine he's a character that will will kind of be in the fold for a while, so um, probably won't get resolved next episode. I'm sure, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he's gonna interact with Nolan. Um, I can't imagine Nolan gets all the way back to Earth by the next episode, but I'm hoping we just get to hear him speak because I feel like it's been a while since we've really heard J.K. Simmons just deliver Omni-Man lines.
Yeah. Negan needs some JK in his life.
I do. Had a J.K. Simmons shortage. I have to think of like a pun with J.K. and like I'll workshop something.
Okay,
But
great. Get back to me on that one.
yeah,
I think the finale is gonna deliver. Every episode of this season has been really solid and really great and keeps pushing the needle in this show. So I'm excited nonetheless, and I'm really excited to come back next Thursday and discuss it all with you.
yeah, I'm really excited. Um, I'm a little scared. I really don't know what's gonna happen, which is cool. Um, but I'm hoping that as crazy as the season's already been, like I'm hoping the craziest stuff will happen in this final episode.
Yeah, I hope so too. Well, thank you everyone for tuning into this episode of Viltrumics, an Invincible podcast here on the Aspect Network. Negan, where can people find you online?
You can find me online on Instagram and TikTok at Negan the Stallion _. And you can also find me on Letterboxd at Negan 2000. So, check those out. Where can people find you, Bree?
They can find me on Instagram at BreAnna_.Romero. And they can find me on Letterboxd at Brianna Romero. And of course, they can find me on TikTok at Big Head Bree with 3 E's, but not as big as a head as Angstrom Levy. Please be sure to subscribe here to The Aspect on YouTube and any platform where podcasts are found. Follow us on Twitter/X, Instagram, and TikTok at The Aspect Co. Thanks so much for listening, and
think, Mark, think!